how did you get to New York? What's the story?
Okay, well, I went to acting school in Ohio, and after school, I did an internship at a Shakespeare theater in Florida, and I was thinking I was going to move to New York, but then the idea of moving to Chicago came up, and I'm from Ohio. I'd never even been to New York City at that point. I was pretty intimidated by the idea of moving here, and I thought I would be able to get farther faster in Chicago, and so I moved to Chicago instead because I was scared of moving here. And it led me down a very interesting path to getting here. Living in Chicago was the absolute, it was just, I was like 25. It was just like a horrible time. And then I moved to, I couldn't take it anymore. And I moved to Atlanta. I started working in TV and film a lot there, and kind of got the balls to move here. And I kind of did it really, I got a manager up here, and this was before COVID and regular self-taping and things like that, and they were like, well, you gotta move here. So then I did, like 6 weeks later, I just did, I moved to Atlanta really spontaneously, and then I moved here pretty spontaneously. But I love it here. Yeah.
What gave you the balls to finally do it? Why then?
Well, so much of what I did in my 20s was fear-based. Obviously, I didn't move here because I was afraid, and then I moved here eventually because I was afraid of not doing it. I was turning, I think I was 28, and I was just like, when am I gonna fucking do it? I was really getting really comfortable in Atlanta. It was a good time, and at that point, lots of people were telling me like, "Oh, you won't get the guest stars, the series regular, the big parts, more than just day roles or whatever. They're casting out of New York. Like, they're not going to take you seriously if you're in Atlanta." And that wasn't either. That was not true or untrue. But that's why I moved here. Yeah.
Did you know anybody when you got here, and what were you hoping to do when you first got here?
I was just hoping to, I have no fucking idea. Like, I was so uncertain about being here that I was really had like a foot here and a foot in Atlanta for probably till the pandemic, it was sort of like you were just like forced to be here. So, I don't know. I wanted to come here and book acting roles. I don't know. It seems like a very shallow time in my life comparatively to now. Everything feels much richer and more artistic and involved, and more about other people rather than booking, credits, clout, fame. I don't know, whatever. Yeah.
Did you already have connections here that made you think that you were likely to find work?
Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of friends from school here. I mean, as I said, like I got hooked up with a manager here. So that was, I had representation already. I would not have moved here without representation. But I knew a lot of people. I didn't know that many people, but I moved here and started getting to know things pretty quickly. It really wasn't until after the pandemic and adult film started and everything that I think, like the idea of community, I'm like, whoa, didn't even know what it was. Didn't even know what friends were, until we started this thing. But so yeah.
Tell me about the first 3 to 6 months or so when you first got here. Were you scraping by, paying rent? How did you make that work? What do you remember about the early days?
I've never, in my entire life, I've never paid more than $800 for rent. So I've always, no, I'm serious. But in my 20s and when I was in Chicago and Atlanta, like I think when I was in Chicago, my rent was $450. And then in Atlanta, I lived in a giant house with a bunch of people. My rent was like $250. So I was basically able to pursue acting full time because my rent wasn't high. So I was always very scared of high rent. Fear-based, lots
For
of
sure.
things, you know, and then, but no, I've always kind of like found ways to like deals, good landlords, things like that. So my first 3 to 6 months here, I was, again, the fear theme, I was scared of losing everything I'd built up in Atlanta. So I was like sort of, like not real, kind of like half committed in a way, even though I was here. But I started booking stuff here pretty quickly, and then I'd go back to Atlanta and shoot things. So I was never really that worried about overall long-term survival. Yes, but not day to day.
Did you get paid work immediately when you got here to have at least some income to pay the bills?
What did I fucking do when I got here? Well, I had money saved. I kept booking back in Atlanta or getting residuals from TV shows or whatever. And then I think I booked a TV show or something here within 6 months. So I've only ever had one like super, super part-time. I would do like nude modeling for art studios, but that was it.
Tell me about your venue, how that came about. What's that story?
Well, the pandemic happened. This kind of independent theater scene started materializing. From the time I moved here up until adult film, I was kind of like, I left Chicago to go to Atlanta to do TV, and I was kind of like, fuck theater, whatever. Like, so I was really, really obsessed with like booking TV and film, and I wasn't, because I didn't think I could get seen, in some ways getting seen for theater is harder than getting seen for TV and film because it's kind of funneled through a couple specific MFA programs and it's very, very relationship based. So I'd kind of just been I'd been thinking about acting, not necessarily TV and film or theater, just like what is acting. And when the pandemic happened and there was suddenly this like kind of, I'm sure there was an independent theater scene before COVID, but like I just had no familiarity with it or anything. And we just kind of were like, let's do a reading in my living room and whatever. And just, I came up with this name, adult film. And then just thing by thing, organically built one thing after another, one idea or project or relationship or something leads to something else. And now it's this like gigantic sprawling thing. And the play that we're doing that you saw the other day, Other People's Lives, that's at Unit J Bushwick, which is not our venue. That's my friend's venue. Our venue is we have a studio space in a basement in the Ridgewood area, and that just came because I knew someone who was living there and they moved out, and it's a perfect studio space, and that landlord let me have it. And he was a really good guy, and it's not insanely expensive. So that gives us a spot to do, to be working constantly. And then, the space that this play is in, I think we made a short film or something, and they do screenings there, and they screened our short film and were interested in our work. And we started talking and realized we had a lot of mutual, interests and people, and decided to do this play there. And I think it's a little hit, and I think that space is fucking awesome. So really it's truly like a candle lighting another candle. It's like, that's how everything happens with the group.
Talk to me about your role within adult film, the evolution of it.
I'm the artistic director. I have assistants now, so I'm not doing literally every fucking thing. I'm the artistic director, and I think of it as a place where I act, direct, and teach. And it's kind of just the whole thing is kind of like, it's many images and feelings and thoughts that I've had at different points or influences or dreams or hopes at different points in my life. And now there's just a place to manifest them in a way. And whatever my vibe is, I'm finding so many like-minded people who, I think I'm changing their lives. They're changing my life. We're all creating something together. It's really an ensemble group. So, but I am the leader of it, and the artistic principles that we have generate from me to them for the most part. But now the group has, or at least that was true in the very beginning. But now there are many dedicated people who it really is like a constant collaboration, and we're really making the thing happen together. So like the other people's lives thing, that's my kids, that's my student, like that's all them. Like I didn't have much to do with that. So it's like, it's a platform for people to create things.
As the leader, what do you look for in people that may want to may want to work for you, and what in general, roughly speaking, are you trying to create there?
Well, I think of it as it's a theater company, a independent film studio, and a artistic training center for actors, writers, and directors. So I'm basically looking for people who are interested in being in a training company and creating a feedback loop of training and experience into artistic projects that is, like I said, focused on acting, not necessarily theater or film. So it then collapses boundaries between theater and film and explores those possibilities, and really puts the focus back on the actor as opposed to like design or social messaging. It's really about the human condition and how it comes through our bodies. And I don't have a concrete answer about what I want it to be. I know that's what it is, but I didn't know it was even going to be that when we started anything or were evolving it. But it definitely has this throwback ethos that's rooted in the great American theater companies and directors and actors of the 20th century, like the Wooster Group or Steppenwolf or Andre Gregory's work, the Actors Studio, things like that. So it's definitely very inspired by all of that. But then, I'm from Ohio. A lot of people are from nowhere. A lot of people don't have connections or money or quote unquote the right kind of training or anything. So it definitely is the other big element of it is that it's like a working class group. And it's not working class in the sense that I mean like go to the picket lines. It's just like it's our classes are like, I think we have a training center unlike any place in the city. It's the place I've always wanted. And it has some of the best fucking teachers in the city, and it's extremely affordable, so that people can be taking multiple classes at one time and sort of cross training, and like they love it, and they meet like the friendships and relationships and things that develop out of it are like so it's really unusual, and it's not something that is around in the rest of the acting world, I think, or it's rare. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Yeah.
When you say it's basically the theater company you always wanted, and maybe I think you just hit on some of the reasons why. Why is it that? How is it that?
Well, it's physical, it's joyful, it's campy, it's really funny, it's sort of punk, sort of rock and roll. It's dealing with like archetypes and personas and iconic, as I said, these iconic images or people or pieces of art from the 20th century. And I feel like we're not generating Camille Paglia would call them glittering images, that we don't generate those anymore. So it's sort of like, how do you reinterpret that for, like, I read something about how Andy Warhol's Factory was kind of like reinterpreting, it's like taking the Hollywood glamour system of the 40s and reinterpreting it for this, what was happening in the 60s. And I'd like to think that we're taking those things like Steppenwolf or those really 70s style way of doing things and reinterpreting them for which in a way I feel I think they feel raw and free and real in a way that many things don't now. I'm like, what? I'm like, does one more person wants to mention AI to me? I don't know what this is. I'm 37. I'm 36. I almost aged myself up. 36. I don't care. I want people in a room together. And, not to be, people throw down with each other. They know each other really well. They're extremely comfortable with each other. They're doing work that is angry and loving and sexual and really just a lot of things that we now have to offsource to third parties because people can't be trusted with each other now, for better or worse. Not that those boundaries were created for no reason, but people are allowed to like make their own decisions. And a lot of what I'm trying to get to people is autonomy. And I feel like for a long time, the actor, the as an artist or what their job is, even a lot of people have been kind of like stripped of their autonomy. Like they can't like it's hard for them to stand on their own personal thing, and just trying to teach people to, do that and stand up for themselves as artists and paint,
Do you feel like you often have to help people unlearn that when they come in?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of stripping. There's a lot of stripping down, and then they discover. It's like you see them discover the freedom, and it's like, wow. And then they start doing things I couldn't coach them to do. You know what I mean? It's like that's when they start taking ownership over themselves. Not everyone, not a lot, but it's pretty. I have this I don't really know how to describe it, but there's this like, the work I like to do is like really physical and really object oriented and kind of very unexpected. I can't really describe it. It's like a little, but there's some kind of like, whether it takes someone longer or they can get to it relatively quickly. It's something about freedom and behavior that they're not getting other places. And when you see them realize they have the permission to do that, it's like people start growing like really, really quickly. It's like I teach in 4 or 5 month what do you call it? Like intensive, like classes that it's like a 4 or 5 month commitment, like twice per year, and like the range of growth people go through in sometimes 2-3 months is totally crazy. Yeah.
Is that what you love about acting? Oh, and I'd love to hear about your commitment to acting, your knowledge about why you wanted to do this yourself, how that relates to maybe what you're doing now in relation to the beauty of the freedom and the autonomy that and the growth you're seeing in a lot of the people at your facility.
Yeah. As I said, I think I had I've been acting since I was 8 years old. I was just always doing it, community theater and whatever. Then I had like a long lost period, like alcohol and all sorts of things. When I was a teen, I was like a wild boy, and still am a little bit. But just like super. Mom's a bus driver, dad's a construction. Didn't know anything about whatever. Just wound up at Ohio University by the seat of my pants. Probably could have been in gutter, like drink, on my just dying, drinking a bottle of kamchatka or something. But I've been doing it since I was a kid, and then in college I kind of found I found Tennessee Williams. It's a really archetypal artistic figure for me. I spent 2 summers working at this summer stock theater in Cape Cod, which I don't know if you know what summer stock is, but it's in the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, they'd have these like summer theaters where they do 10 plays in 8 plays in 10 weeks or something like that, like musicals, blah, blah, blah. Actors from Broadway or famous people would go do stock, as they say. And I did this. It's this old way and form of doing things. And I did these 2 summers at a summer stock in Cape Cod. And it was just totally, I don't really even know what happened, but I dream about it all the time still. I literally had a dream the other night where I finally said goodbye to the place. And I woke up and I had been crying in my sleep. Have you ever done that?
I don't think so.
I was just it must have been extremely, well, we talked a little bit about James Hollis and Jungian stuff and dreams and things. But I dreamt that I dream about this summer stock often and this place in Cape Cod, and it kind of figures in strange, it'll be like, it's the summer stock, but it's in the basement of my house or things like that. And I dreamt that I've never had a dream where I've said goodbye to it before. And I had a dream where I was saying goodbye to it, and I was crying in the dream. And I woke up and I had like tears all over my face. And I don't know if I've ever done that before. So it was really powerful. But those are kind of the things that like enchanted me about acting and kind of gave me this like, I'm an Aries. I like getting things done, and just, I have a lot of energy. And that kind of like jump started me in my 20s to go try to pursue it professionally, and then I betrayed myself a million times and made bad decisions. Lots of good things happened. Your dreams change, you get knocked down. And it just kind of like through all this, over, almost 12, 13 years, whatever, of pursuing it professionally and having some successes and crashing through other visions of how you thought things were going to go for yourself, and finding like Jungian therapy and things like that. I just kind of like started going inward and kind of, as I said, not thinking about theater or film, but what is acting, which, I think is like, what is being a person? What is being a lot, what is acting? Like, why am I doing this? Like, it's just a thing that I want. I just want to book, I don't know, what the fuck is it? So, I don't necessarily have an answer for it, but it's it's located like, it's probably located more like what it was for me when I was 8 than what I allowed myself to lose, based on external pressures for a long time. I don't know if that answers the question.
You mentioned Tennessee Williams.
Yeah.
As someone who knows very little about acting, the history of theater, talk to me about the role of Tennessee Williams in your life. Why?
Well, he's like the god Eros, sort of like he's the god of desire, basically. Like I think Tennessee Williams is like responsible culturally for like the sexual revolution.
Really?
Basically. Well, it's like before Brando and Streetcar, there were obviously there were like erotic, like there was like Clark Gable and like sort of like eroticized versions of men, but like Brando, Montgomery Clift, and James Dean allowed men to have like a femininity that was also very male at the same time, but they brought like a feminine kind of bisexual sexuality, which I think is the appeal of all great actors. It's men who have feminine qualities, or women who have masculine quality, which is, again, it's Jungian. It's like anima animus. And so Brando did that. And that was like, I mean, like no one had like, he like made t-shirts popular, just having like arms, seeing arms and muscles in shirts. So it's like, Williams was the first person to bring eroticism in that way to major screens, and Brando changed all acting and filmmaking and everything forever, and thereby changed popular culture forever. And that was in 1951. And then, so it's like we think of the 50s as a certain way, but there's all this like subversive, it's very gay. It's very like it's very like homoerotic too. And like, so all this stuff is like bubbling during the 50s, and it influenced everything that burst out in the 60s. So I think Williams is like because so many of his plays were adapted for films, like dozens.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, like Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Suddenly Last Summer, Night of the Iguana. He's like really, really big. There's no one comparable now because nothing's so centralized.
I don't know how much you know about his biography, but I'd love to know whatever you know, whatever you think is important to know about the man.
He has these two sides of himself. He has this they're personified in, so his sister, he came from a religious Southern family, and his sister Rose, was lobotomized. So that was there's that character, like Laura and the Glass Menagerie and other things like that. There's this girl who can't be in the world type of character. And then there's the Williams character that he inserts himself, which is kind of like a poet, a man who's out of place with the rest of the men around him. And then there's these characters like Blanche Dubois in Streetcar Named Desire that are whores. Basically, they're out of control sex addicts. Basically, like they can't reconcile their sexual appetites with the civilization around them. So I think that's one big thing. It was his homosexuality and his his alcoholism and sex obsession, which now would probably be like, it's just like, that's everybody on Grindr. Like everyone's no one thinks it's weird if someone fucks 6 people in a day now. It's like, that's, I mean, in terms in the queer community, like it's like people call it sex positivity now. But it's what tortured him. So he had a lot of trouble making peace with himself in that way, but that inner split is what gave us like so many of the greatest works of the 20th century. So like, I hate this shit about like everyone needs, all this like fucking crap, like about like, you need to be positive about what, no, you're allowed to feel whatever you fucking feel. It's your, it's your fucking journey. And like, I don't feel like any of that surface level commercial shit really, like Williams was like grappling with his, he wanted wholeness and to like be able to integrate these different parts of themselves, and he wasn't able to.
Where did that lead him in his life?
Major alcoholic, drugs, pills, blah, blah, blah. He wasn't super young, but he died in 1982. I don't know. I think he was probably 60s, but he like choked on a pill cap or something while he was drunk. Or some people, or there's like conspiracy theories or something. But he had a very difficult life full of pain and that's just not gay or that's all of them. Ernest Hemingway, Raymond Carver, John Cheever, all those writers, they're all drunks, And
do you see a through line between all of them?
Well, they were all kind of gay. Like John Cheever was bisexual, very dealing with a lot of the similar themes to Williams. I mean, I forget what Raymond Carver's personal life was like, but I mean, I think they all had troubles with masculinity is what I mean. Like Hemingway had very much like, all his like safari shit and all the whatever, like, they were all grappling with masculinity. I think it's been a huge Hemingway in terms of like the war, Farewell to Arms, right? He's like, what is man's just a killing machine? Like that type of thing. And yeah.
How does Tennessee Williams' story and life, if at all, inform what you're doing now or inspire it?
It just fucking does. I don't know. It's just like A Streetcar Named Desire is my favorite piece of art, period. Not just like play or whatever. I think it's the greatest piece of, definitely of the 20th century. It's the greatest play ever written. And the libidinous, and I don't just mean in a sexual way, but I mean like in it, there's just, it provides so much, it's just such an energy pillar for me. I don't know. I don't really need to know an answer. It's just who I am.
I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about it, but what makes you say that it's the best piece of art of the 20th century or all time?
Well, as I said, it's the reason for the sexual revolution. So it's a proto-erotic. It's also, it takes place in 1947, New Orleans. And so it is literally commenting, because the story is basically a fading Southern belle who she's lost her plantation, lost her old aristocratic way of life, and she has to move in with her sister's husband, who's like this, he sort of symbolizes like the rough, uncouth man who will do anything that he needs to get ahead in business and pleasure, basically. So he is the man coming back from World War II. So he's all of old America ending and everything America is going to become. And we're, the character Stanley, he talks about, he's like, there was this like really bombastic governor of Louisiana called Huey Long. And, like a Trumpian figure, or proto-Trumpian figure. And Stanley, like, he's like, have you ever heard of the Napoleonic Code? It's like it's not like it's something Huey Long, he's like constantly referencing Huey Long as this, like, Huey knows how to, so it's like aspects of it are Trumpian, and, I don't think no one deals with, or I'm like, World War II is like the single biggest event ever in all of human history. Like everything changes after that. Like all of this we have the podcasts are because of this, you know what I mean? So it happens. He literally writes it in response to men coming home from World War II. It premieres on Broadway in 1957. And then the movie comes out in 1951. So that's,
Fascinating. You said earlier in the conversation that, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the way when you first came here to the city, you were very focused on booking work. And now you have this much more communal existence. I'd love, if you can, to talk about that arc from just the mentality and the experience of the early months and years versus the community aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I basically just didn't get what I wanted. So it was like, which caused me to be like, if they don't want you in the way that you want them, are you still an artist? Are you still an act? I mean, like, look, I'm like, I still like book work regular. Like, I'm acting like I'm like whatever, but like, I didn't become, and I hope I still have some, I'm yet. I mean, but I didn't fucking hit it by 25, like whatever. Like, it's like, I'm not a Sam Rockwell. I'm not a Josh Brolin. I'm not a John Malkovich. Like, it's like, those are the people not only do I literally look like them, people stop me on the street. You look like Josh Brolin. Like, you know what I mean? Ethan Hawke, Stephen Dorff, all the, all these people. It kind of drives me a little fucking crazy that I look like all these successful actors. And, and I've been, it's like, this is all I've ever done. I've been doing this since I was 8 years old. It's like, it's who I am no matter what. So not getting what I wanted and kind of, like I just had to choose, and I'm not perfect at grapple. I struggle emotionally with it all the time. Even me joking about it right now is like sort of a defense mechanism about how I'm not really so okay with it. Yeah. But there was like a threshold where I had to be like, are you going to continue torturing yourself, or are you going to allow this to be what it's always been, which has been like your pure soul since you were a I always all the things I loved and was good at and whatever when I was a kid. And like, so I just started, following that a little more, and then being like, no one is doing tennis. Nobody thinks or has these feelings about Tennessee Williams like I do. I should do this. Or Chekhov. Chekhov and Williams are like my two big things. Or Eugene O'Neill or Sam Shepard, or all these great, all these plays I always wanted to do, and that I feel such an affinity for the original actors who played them, and there doesn't seem to be a place for that type of actor anymore. So I'm creating a place for that type of actor, and I am that type of actor, and I don't care who lets me be it or not. I'm just going to let myself be it.
You've already mentioned the word Jung during the conversation, but I would love for you to have some space to talk about the link between your understanding of Jungian ideas and philosophy and psychology with what you just said about honoring what you've been since you were 8 years old.
Well, I think of, I mentioned Williams is grappling with the opposites within himself, and that's like a big thing with Jung. It's like the light and the shadow, and how we are never completely either of them. And this is a very real thing that people don't want to. There's so much pressure for everyone to be perfect, and it's like or to be seen all the time, or to be in public all the time. So, people aren't allowed to like be bored or alone or by themselves, to really have, and so many people refute religion. So it's like, how do you contemplate yourself? And the way I found it was through Jungian therapy. I've been working with a Jungian therapist for like 8 years. And he's amazing. And he just started helping me see things rather than me getting so fucking upset about or overjoyed about like this great fucking thing happened. This is my new fucking way of looking at, or something, you don't get something you want, or something bad happens and you get extremely just knocked off course by it or whatever. He just kind of like helped me see them as like those things as energy, and like, why are you being so energized by it rather than like it's an absolutely a good or a bad thing. So he just started helping me have more fun with complexity. And I feel like that gave me the strength and the perceptiveness to tackle this material this type of material or subjects in a richer way. And I just think about the word richness, or like rich experiences. I think about that a lot, and I look for that a lot, and or synchronicities or things like that. Yeah. Sorry.
Has that fundamentally changed your narrative of what you're doing with your life?
Yeah, absolutely.
How so?
Well, I just live in the unknown now. As I said, I crashed past all the ages that I thought I was going to do whatever by. So it's like, okay, like, I'm not 28. How does this, I've just let go of, I'm just trusting more and letting go of the how and when. And trusting that these things I want are coming just, not on my timeline. And, in their own ways. And that I have more control about, I'm kind of in between about like, can you manifest everything? Obviously you have control over how you feel, and that really affects how a lot of things go. And I think you have control over your inner life and how that manifests literally in your skeletal structure and your body and how you interact with people and your charisma level. So like, I think charisma is just like being in that pelvis and like fucking walking around, you know what I mean? Like, and people get drawn to you, and you get to have relationships with people. And that's what it's, I'm just more interested in doing the work and the relationships with people and the experiences with people. And having that be enough. Yeah.
You mentioned Chekhov, I think, in addition to Tennessee Williams being your other favorite. Tell me about him and why.
So Chekhov changed all of acting forever. It's the second biggest. So it's before. Have you heard of Stanislavski?
Yes.
He was a Russian director, actor. He basically invented what we think of as modern acting. Prior to Stanislavski, it was more like sort of like representational. And he basically was not the first, but the most notable person to be like, no, like this is realism. It's like being real life. And Chekhov's plays, the writer Anton Chekhov, the plays of Chekhov were what he used to create this technique, basically. And it was perfect for the plays because the plays were really the first modern psychological behavior-driven dramedies, basically. Like they're, so he created this acting technique by using these plays, and then these Russian people came over to America, and then you get all the great teachers of the 20th century that taught Brando. And then a lot of Williams plays were like created at the studios that people like Brando were being taught at. So those are to me, Chekhov and Williams are the two biggest forces in dramatic history, basically, in modern dramatic history.
What makes a great actor in your mind? Do you know when you see it?
Talking as themselves. Just someone who's themselves. I don't know what to say. It's like you can. I do believe you can craft a character, and but something really personal. Someone who's working personally in a way that you can tell that's the person. I don't like, for instance, Carrie Coon in The White Lotus. You see her in the show. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what show she's in, what movie she's in her interviews in person. It's not, I call it, my new term is vampire alien bobblehead. She's just a fucking person. You can tell, like, you know what I mean? She looks like a real person. When she's acting, you can tell it's coming from like who Carrie Coon is, even though, yes, she's stepping into different circumstances and different information and has done work in different ways on the projects. Whereas there's this other kind of acting that happens that's more quote unquote transformational, or a little more, it's giving like media training sort of, and like that comes through in the acting, and it also happens to, it's what a lot of major celebrities I do think. It's where like the appearances in the shows and the work that they do is more about continuing the brand of this person rather than, which like Carrie Coon doesn't have. I mean, she kind of does now, but like, who cares? You know what I mean? They could have hired anyone, but they chose her because of how fucking good she is. Like, yeah. And she's from the Midwest. She came up through Chicago. So, maybe I don't know. But that's something I really, and it's what I look for in my students and when I teach and everything. It's personal.
How important do you think it is for someone to be connected to really being an actor like it sounds like you were when you were 8 or a young person? How important is it for someone to have that deep of a connection to an identity of being an actor to end up being a terrific actor? Do you think it has to be there in that way?
Like I said, when it has to be there for you, if no one else is whatever, you know what I mean? It's like we live in a cruel world. A lot of people put in very little effort, get the moon. A lot of people have circumstances that set themselves up for success with very little effort. And a lot of other people have to work for a really, really long time. And there's, as we all know, there's hundreds and thousands, whatever, extremely talented people who, I don't know what they did or didn't do or their life circumstances, but they're very talented and no one knows who they are. So it's, and you can't control that. For me, that's people can do whatever the fuck they want, but like those are the standards that I care about, like the standards of excellence within the self and with other people. And, you know, to interact with me in my most, where I'm being most myself, that's the type of person who I want to be interacting with. I'm not saying they have to like know everything that I know and whatever, but like, I think you just need to be a person who's like really living in a state of curiosity and openness and like intrigue, you know? I'm not very interested in shut down people or, you know, it's a turn off. I don't know.
Yeah. Last question I want to ask you is about advice you would give to the younger version of you first coming to New York, of anybody that stumbles across this, that is thinking about making that jump in a variety of different artistic fields. What advice, looking back on your own journey, would you give a
Well, I
friend?
should have just fucking come here at 23 instead of waiting. If I could do one do-over, it'd be that. But what does that mean? Don't be afraid. I don't know. It's just like, don't wait. Don't wait, I guess.
I want to piggyback on that. And you've said the word fear a few times. You talked about fear, the way you approach fear when you were younger. How do you think about fear now?
Well, I kind of have less to live. Well, you know, I'm a little more in touch with, like, we all leave that, you know, when you're in your 20s, you think like there's still parts of you that think life's never going to end. Yeah. And now I know it's going to end, or that, you know, that being old 50s, 60s is not as far away as I think it is. And so in some ways I have less to lose because I don't care as much. But I think I just understand fear is a more useful state of being now, or just something that I can allow to come over me and integrate, rather than being, you know, absolutely like just knocked over by it, or allowing it to make major decisions for me.
I think it's a good place to end. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.